Hey everybody, welcome to Ref Time, powered by RTS and produced by Coraggio Media. I'm Tanya.
And I'm Crane. We'll be covering rules, plays, points of emphasis, and all things official. Welcome to Ref Time with the great Marvin Patterson. How you doing, Mr. Patterson?
Doing well. How are you?
Good.
Doing good. Good to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I'm excited about this. I want to see what this where this can go.
Yeah.
It's going to go great places. I mean, we have the great Marv Patterson, so it's going to go great places.
Tell my wife that.
Man. So you, well, speaking of your wife, how long you been married now?
You know, we're 3 years in.
Okay.
Oh, you a newlywed.
Yeah, we're working on 4, actually.
All right.
Wow.
It's been good. We've been real busy. She keeps me extremely busy.
That's a good thing.
Yes, it is. It is.
I didn't know you were that much of a newlywed. For some reason, I thought y'all been married longer.
Well, we've been together for some time, and it's also my second marriage.
Okay.
So I have some experience at it.
Well, as I told my husband, it was his final marriage, so.
Agreed.
So,
I'm a veteran at this.
Yeah, I used to go around saying it's my second marriage, and she stopped me one day. She said, "You need to stop saying that. I'm your final wife." And I'm like, then you give him that famous 2-word response, "Yes, dear."
Yeah, I've learned that. I'm getting pretty good at it.
Yeah.
All right, so we're here to talk about officiating. Marv,
Man.
how many different sports are you officiating now?
You know what? I am basketball is my only one.
Has that always been your only
It's
sport?
always been my only one. I thought about volleyball at some point, but I'm not really versed on the skill set that's required.
We can help you with that.
You know,
I'm just saying.
I really enjoy basketball though. You know, that's the one where it's split second decision making. It carries over to your real life, carries over to your professional life, and I really enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. And I'll be honest with you, I used to think the exact same thing. Basketball was all I was interested in until this thing came into my life.
Talk about keeping him busy.
Yeah, and you know what? At the time, I was not able to do much basketball because I was hurt. And she said, "Oh, you're going to do something." I'm like, "I'm not doing any sissy volleyball." And she goes, "It's something you're going to do and you will probably enjoy it." I'm like, "Yeah, right." So I remember going to the very first volleyball meeting I had ever been to at Southside High School in the auditorium. Lady up front was talking and she goes, "And this is the civilized sport." And I'm thinking, this is some whatever. And so I got my license, did my first volleyball match at I think it was a grade school. And I remember the coach across the court said something challenging one of my calls. By the way, I didn't know what I was doing as a new volleyball official.
And she was probably right.
She was probably right.
I know you stood your ground though.
Of course I did. I'm a basketball-minded official. So I'm looking at her like, and I'm yelling at her across the court and put her in her place. And after the match, she comes up to me. She says, "I have a question." I said, and I'm ready for it. I said, "Yeah, what you got, coach?" And she goes, "Well, forget it. I was out of place and I should never have questioned you. I'm sorry." And she walks away. And I'm thinking, yeah, right. She's coming back. She never came back. I go outside to never saw her again. I'm thinking, this is a civilized sport.
Well,
might be the one.
and you know,
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, you know, the kids when they're done and the coaches when they're done, they say thank you, you know, great
Win
job.
Win or lose.
Seldom do you get that in basketball. You know, that the losing team will come up and say, "Oh, you know, you did a great job."
Right.
So knowing that, what keeps you guys coming back
to basketball?
To basketball.
Hey, we're not the ones being interviewed here.
I'm just trying to.
I'm just saying, did you catch that? Because he just tried to flip it.
Wasn't it?
This is not the Gianna Hearn episode where
that was smooth, Mark. I give you something. That was smooth. And I was ready to answer it, and she jumped in.
No, but for real though, the love of the sport. I mean, I love basketball.
Yeah, we love basketball.
It was always my favorite growing up.
But I've learned to I like volleyball. But I'll tell you why I like volleyball so much. I like volleyball because of the people.
Yeah.
When I walk into the gym, I see these girls and boys now, because they got boys volleyball in high school now.
Yes.
And I walk in, and these like she said, they'll run up to me. "Oh my gosh, you're my favorite referee!" And I'm thinking, you got to be saying that to every referee in the land.
They're not.
But they really enjoy it because when I go to volleyball, I don't know the rules as diligently as she does. She's a chairperson now of one of the associations, Lime City. So I don't know the rules as well as she does. So I make sure I we enforce the rules as well as I can, and I'm learning all the time, and I make sure the kids have fun.
Mm-hmm.
In basketball, it's kind of different. I mean, you and I both know basketball has become a sport where it's not fun anymore for a lot of people.
No, it's more of a job, even at the third grade level. I mean, you got coaches that are coming in here cussing at these kids.
Yeah.
And, going off on them because they miss a layup or,
right.
missed a pass or something. And it's like they're third grade.
I've definitely seen the shift. I started in Indianapolis 2012 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I was still playing at the NBA level myself.
I remember. Yeah, I wanted to get your autograph back then. Too late now. He retired. But please continue on.
No, it's still worth something though.
It's worth a little.
After the show, I got to get that autograph.
We'll talk about it. No, seriously, I was playing at a high level, 40 and over leagues, whatever, and I blew my knee out.
Mm.
So Doc was like, you'll be done in 3 weeks. You'll be back on the court playing or whatever. So I went into surgery, and once he got into my knee, he was like, "Oh, no, this is really wrecked." So I had a microfracture, and when I woke up, he told me about it. He was like, "Okay, you can't play anymore. You can play half court." I'm like, "What fun is that?"
Mm-hmm.
So trying to figure out how to replace that energy.
Mm-hmm.
I still love the game. Always want to be around it.
Mm-hmm.
So I found refereeing and officiating, if you will, and Lachelle Thornton. My cousin, she's out of Indy.
Okay.
And she introduced me to it, and I fell in love with it.
Mm-hmm. And most of us do.
Yeah.
And we try to tell people that once you get into officiating, you're still part of the game.
Right.
And people don't realize we are a major part of the game. You can't have an organized game without officials.
No,
right.
No chance.
And the differences in our personalities and the differences in what we call and what we choose to pass on, that helps to make the game too, and people don't realize that.
Oh, it's a huge part of the game.
And now that you and I don't play anymore and we see the officiating side, we're going, wow, if I had known then what I know now, I'd have been a much better ball player.
When you come into it, I'm thinking it's going to be, I played my whole life. This will be an easy transition.
Yep.
So I get out to Carmel, IBA. I got third graders, my very first game. Throw the ball up, and it's like a million people running around. It was going so fast, in hindsight compared to what we know now.
Right.
I was like, what is going on? This is crazy.
Yep.
And it was just a completely different game.
Yep.
And, of course, you guys know I tried to ref it like I played it. Can't do that.
Does not work.
That does not work.
No.
So that was my introduction to it, and it was I fell in love with it from there.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
When we have people come through the class, we usually hear those stories, and people, they think that they can ref the game the way they played the game.
Mm-hmm.
And we tell them, no. As Tanya would say, nay. It doesn't work that way.
No, not at all.
And the other part of it is, as an official, it's our job to enforce the rules. Well, as a player or a coach, our job is to find a way to get around those rules, right?
As much as possible.
Or to make them work to our advantage.
Right.
And so as an official, it's our job to enforce those rules. And as you know now, we need to know the rules in order to enforce those rules. And so as a coach and a player, I don't need to necessarily know the rules. I had a coach yelling at me the other day that, what did he want? He wanted something, a 3-second call for the guy in the paint. And I said, I'm watching him. He says, no, he was in there. And I was like, Coach, I know the rule. Learn the rule. Don't yell at me if you don't know the rule, because yes, he was in there, but then there was a shot that was taken. And if we all know the rule is once that shot goes up,
all bets are off.
All bets are off. 3 seconds restarts.
Yeah.
And it doesn't start until there's a possession
of that team who was in the lane.
And I'm not, and you've got to give him that opportunity. And he's sitting there fussing at me almost every time down the court. And I'm looking at him, I'm like, no, don't talk to me about that rule anymore until you know the rule.
Because and what's funny is he doesn't know the rule, because I was thinking if it happened for his team and this, say at the other end, the same thing happened, he might be concerned that his player is in the lane too long, not realizing, they didn't call it. We're not calling it because there's no team possession. The shot went up. Yeah, it's amazing, like you guys are saying.
Yeah.
When you learn the rules, it circumvents everything you knew as a player.
Yeah.
You almost could date the tenure of a coach by the calls that he's making during the course of the game.
Yes.
If you hear a coach saying 3 seconds all the time, you're like, okay, this guy's probably new.
Right.
He doesn't really know the rules.
Right.
And the more advanced and better the game gets, the better the coaches are usually.
Right. You're absolutely right. And when I have coaches yelling, well, one of my pet peeves, and we'll get into that too, is the carry dribble. I mean, I hate when players do that. And I've kind of backed off of calling it as much as I used to. But when I do call it nowadays, it's like the coaches they just harp on that the rest of the game. Like they've never seen a carry dribble. And I think it's because players nowadays, everyone carries the ball. It's just
Every
a given.
I think
Every
yesterday in the championship game he was doing, I think he called 3 in the first minute.
Set the tone.
I did.
So later on, you can't complain about it.
I'm sitting there, I'm watching, because I was done for the day and I was getting ready to go home, and I'm sitting there watching, and I'm carry. Like, oh, he is gonna tick so many people off.
What was that? How the game's gonna go?
Was that 8th grade?
I think so.
8th grade
I think it was
championship.
8th grade.
Nobody said anything about it.
Oh, the coach did not like it.
But he never said anything to me. I think he knew, because the way I call it, I'm carrying, and I point. I just walk. If I hear anything, I just ignore it and keep walking. And I'm sending, like you said, I'm sending a message. This is what I'm going to call. We're not questioning it. Sydney puts the ball in play. Let's go. I call it again. Go the other way.
Well, I had the opposite. The game before we had a championship game, and the team kept. I was right in front of the one coach, and he wanted me to call the carry dribble on the kid, and I didn't really see him bringing the ball over.
Okay.
And so if I see it, I mean, I will call it, but it's to a point now where it's got to really be gaining an unfair advantage. Just because he's standing here doing this, he's not really going anywhere. I'm not going to call that.
I do.
80 feet away from the basket, if it's going to have an impact on the game,
I call it.
Right. There was no advantage, disadvantage.
Yes, there is.
Anyway.
Well, like Marvin said.
But every time I came down the court, the coach kept saying, he's carrying. He was
right.
No, he wasn't.
Well,
no.
What's funny, Marv? I walk in, and they got the game started, her and Sydney. I walk in, and she looks over at me, and she says, hey, can you watch number such and such and see if you think he's carrying the ball, because the coach keeps asking for it, and I'm not seeing it.
I didn't see it.
I look down, get me a piece of candy or something. I look up, and the kid is standing right in front of me. I'm at half court, and he just does a quick one. And I was like, yep. And so she comes back, and I said, oh, yeah, I would get him. And she goes, I'm not seeing it. And what it was is he's a very quick dribbler. And you're right. If they're 80 feet away from the basket, there's no reason really to call it. Mm-hmm. But I do sometimes, not all the time, because I want to send a message that when I do call it and it's obvious and he's gaining advantage, you're already used to it. You already know that this guy's going to call it.
Yeah.
And what I typically do in that scenario, if it's me and the kid coming up the court together,
say something to him. Keep your hand
on top of the ball.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't want to call it.
Right.
None of us want to call it.
Right.
So I'll try to talk to him.
I like calling it.
I
like to feel my wrist do this. It turns, I get that
all right,
quick.
Well, let's get back on track real quick, because we don't want to use up all our time talking about your carry dribble.
It's not my carry dribble, it's the player. Okay, so career highlights, Marv. What's been your career highlights in officiating thus far?
Career highlights in officiating. I got in real early. What I did when I first started, like I told you guys, I started at Carmel, third graders.
Mm-hmm.
I went from that to a men's league so I could learn the speed of the game.
Wow.
As I'm learning the rules, learn
the
speed
as well. You
went from
third grade to men's league?
So
it's kind of the same.
I want to throw myself in the fire.
Just bigger bodies.
Yeah, throw yourself in the fire.
You threw yourself in the fire already, covered in oil.
You did. And I learned the hard way.
Yeah.
I was doing 300-400 games a year.
Wow.
For years.
Men's leagues?
I don't think you told us. How long have you been officiating?
I've been officiating since 2012. Maybe.
Okay, so 11 years. Okay.
11 years. But I wanted to get good at it quickly. So I was doing 300 and 400 games a year.
Mm-hmm.
Men's leagues, AAU. I did one called Division 5. And it's a 3-on-3, one referee, 9-foot rims. Amazing. It was so much fun.
Wow.
That was so much fun.
Oh, wow.
Division 5. It was so hilarious.
Okay, Tanya wants me to write that down.
Because he's going to ask me about it later, and I'm going to be like, watch it. Watch the podcast.
You said Division 5?
Division 5 is what they call it.
And you said it, what was it about?
3-on-3.
3-on-3.
9-foot rims.
Wow.
Adults. We're talking 20, 21, where, everybody can still jump. But so
9-foot rim.
Yeah. So I jumped in it, and I was middle school, high school, camps. Camps were amazing. So I learned so much there.
Mm-hmm.
But I just threw myself in it, and I literally just I love basketball. I'm doing that almost as much as I'm doing my full-time job.
Right. Right.
But as my career highlight, my first year after shadowing one of my buddies, Troy Ramey out of Indianapolis. He's a women's Division I official.
Okay.
I got my first
Shout out.
varsity game. Definitely a shout out. He took me to my first varsity game. I remember getting to the scores table on my first call, forgetting the number.
Happens all the
Eyes
time.
were big.
Yep.
The lights were on. Everybody's looking at me. I'm like, oh my gosh. But that was my career highlight early on, was just getting a varsity game in my very first year.
You didn't tell us how you got the number, though. How did you remember the number?
Well, he's got
The table.
partners.
The table.
The table?
The table.
Saved
the
your
table
life.
helped me out.
Yeah.
But and I thought I knew so much, like every young official.
Yes.
Right.
I thought I knew it all
Right. Because you played.
because I played and I ref 300 games a year. And
Yeah.
11 years later, you still get something new
Yep.
every year.
Especially when you go from doing industrial league ball, like what you were doing, a lot of the men's leagues, and you go into school.
Oh, yeah.
And then when you go from school into college,
Yeah.
it's a whole
all the
different world.
format, everything is much more proper. You've got to, you've got other things that you have to be responsible for. At the college level, you've got, you've got a lot more. I mean,
a lot more politics
a
on
lot
the
more
college
politics, but you've got to be there, an hour and a half before your game. You sit and you talk in the locker room for about 30 minutes with your partners.
On pregame.
Pregame, also just connecting. Because the better you know each other,
Right.
the better you flow.
They find out how much I like to call the carry dribble.
You can see that even in just going from a freshman game to a JV game to a
Right.
varsity game.
Yes.
Right.
The difference is
Yeah.
tremendous.
Yes, you're right.
So even going to the college level, which I have not experienced, I've only done a JUCO camp,
Okay.
and which was crazy because I get out there and I'm blowing whistles and you call outside of your area and the official looks at you like, have you lost your mind?
Right.
Right.
Right. Right.
So
Was that 2-person or 3-person?
it was 3-man.
And that was recent.
That was been some years back.
So
Yeah.
when you did that, did you find the game was a much faster game on the JUCO level?
Oh my goodness.
It's like lightning
Yeah.
compared to
Oh,
what
yeah.
you've seen. Yeah.
Speed difference, the athleticism.
Oh yeah.
Well,
You
we've
know.
done some JUCO with just 2-person, and
Oh,
man, that is
man.
crazy.
Oh, yeah.
That's
I can't even imagine that.
No.
Yeah. We did a JUCO tournament in Indianapolis a few
Yeah.
years ago. We took it's us two and
Sydney
and Jessica. And there was
Yeah.
2-person. And
Yeah.
this was
It was
crazy
crazy.
because it was a JUCO showcase where the coaches were coming in to look at these players to take them on to
Okay.
the higher level. And they only played, I think it was 20-minute games or something like that, or 15-minute
Yeah, it was something very
games.
unique. It was very different.
And no timeouts. And it was just these boys were flying up and down
Yeah.
the court. We were there all day, 2 officials per court, and I don't think we got many breaks. So you
I
talking
don't
about
remember.
getting a workout,
I mean, you're really dealing with guys that are tweeners at the JUCO level,
right?
who have the same skill set. They just don't have the size
Right,
of
Yeah.
the
Right.
D1 players.
right.
So to be out there all day,
Yeah,
Yeah.
no.
It was a runner. It was a run. So tell us about your profession then. Outside of officiating, what do you do for a living?
So I spent my last 10 years in pharmaceutical sales,
Mhm.
and I've sold diabetes products. I've sold respiratory products. I sold urology products. And about 2 years ago, right after COVID, I noticed a shift in the industry. So I decided to make a change. So I jumped over to IT sales now, and I manage a territory from Minnesota down to Kansas for Dell Technologies. And I
Is that what your shirt represents?
Yeah, so I manage partner accounts. I'm like the face of Dell for partners that go out and resell our products
Hmm.
Oh, wow.
to Fort Wayne Community Schools or whoever.
Mm-hmm.
That's
GM,
a
whatever.
definite switch from pharmaceuticals to.
Well, the transition was easy because it's still relationship-based selling,
Mhm.
Mhm.
and I've been good at that, and I've been doing that for some time now. So, and I love talking to people. So it was easy for me. Learning the technology, that's a little bit different.
Right.
You know, but they usually provide us with an engineer that travels with us, so they get into that technical conversation. I'll take the guys out golfing or Top Golf or go
lunch.
have lunch
Yeah.
and beers or something like that. So
That must be rough. I want to go hang out with you for a day.
Oh, wow. So the field that you're in now, would you say that you enjoy that more or about the same as what you did before in pharmaceutical sales?
that's a really good question, Crane. I really enjoyed the pharmaceuticals from the aspect of being able to impact patient lives and learning how to teach my community how to speak to physicians and nurses and get what you need from those visits that you have. Whereas on this side over here, a big part of my role is being the entertainer. So I'm the fun guy when it comes to dealing with these resellers, and I get to do all the fun stuff.
But that's an important part of any business.
Absolutely.
Because in our business, our new 3-on-3, I was talking to Sydney, and she kind of broke things down. We were going to the game the other day, and she said, the one thing I learned on our first event, which I don't know if you knew about it, we did a 3-on-3 at Turnstone.
We talked about
a couple weeks ago, and it went very well. We were happy with it. And Sydney goes, I think what I've learned is my job, she said her job is kind of to do the setup. She said, I can take care of all the setup, making sure everything's where it's supposed to be, everything's ready. And then throughout the day, I can make sure people get to where they need to be. She said, Mom's job is more behind the scenes, and she takes care of registration. She takes care of problems and bracketing and all that. And, getting everybody. She did it. And she said,
very well.
And she said, and your job, Dad, she said, you're very good with people. You're walking around talking to everybody, make sure everybody's happy, finding out where their problem areas are, putting out fires. I said, yeah, I'm very comfortable with that. She goes, I think that's what I realized. We all figured out what we're really good at and what we're comfortable with. And she said, that's our partnership. And I looked at her like, I raised my baby well.
Right.
What could I say?
Right.
We raised her well.
High five, high fives all around.
Yeah,
no, that's a big part of it. What you just said
is.
It is. Especially when you're talking about a product or a brand you're building. There's probably 50 different brands that sell the exact same thing, but people buy from who they like.
Yes,
they spend time with who they like.
Yes,
and who take care of them.
You take care of those
people. Don't realize sales is about giving your money to people you like.
It is,
and you may give your money to somebody you don't like at first, but then after a while, it's always going to be in your craw that I'm paying somebody I don't like, and you're always kind of looking for somebody you do like.
You'll pay a little bit more.
Yes, you will.
Yeah.
That's human. People don't realize that's human.
Yep.
And they say, oh, it's all about the money. No, it's not all about the money.
Not at all.
All right, we're going to transition and go into rules or points of emphasis, or we'll start off with maybe a pet peeve. What kind of pet peeves do you have about?
Oh, this is juicy.
Fishing? And we've heard his pet peeve with the carry dribble.
And we know hers. You know her pet peeve, right?
What's that?
Well, my thing is the jewelry, especially
that's not all.
In basketball. In volleyball, there's a new rule that now the girls are allowed to wear. Well, not girls, but players are allowed to wear studs.
Yeah. Not hoop earrings, but studs.
No hoops.
Anything above the neck they can wear.
Nope. The chin.
Above the chin.
Chin. They don't say neck. The chin.
Oh, God.
So they can't wear necklaces.
They can't wear anything below the chin.
They can wear 15 earrings.
As long as they're all studs.
Yeah.
That's in volleyball.
So
now in basketball, it's still the same. No jewelry. And so the thing that really irks me most of the time is that these kids will come out here with a Band-Aid or tape, and they have all this stuff. And I'm like, first of all, it looks gaudy. Boys do it the most. It's hilarious. Boys will come out with a big old white piece of tape over their ear.
Right.
I'm like, bro, go take that out. Like, first
I
of all,
can't take it off. I just got it in.
Well, that was dumb on your part.
You've heard that many times.
So many times. And,
but so that's my little pet peeve. That's one of them. My other pet peeve is making sure they have their uniforms tucked in. So
what's yours, Marvin?
Just going back to the volleyball statement, I'm just wondering if the commissioner is Mr. T or Dennis Rodman. Because why would you change that rule?
Because it's popular in volleyball.
Yes.
You got to remember, volleyball is mostly girls.
Yeah.
And think about it. Girls are our biggest problem when it comes to jewelry in basketball. They are the biggest problem.
And then the club sport, club allowed 2 years ago, they went ahead and they allowed them to start wearing the jewelry. They actually allowed them to wear, it's supposed to be choker necklaces, but they allow it.
Yeah.
And So I'm like, you know what? Unless we deem it as a safety issue, a safety factor,
we have to let them wear it.
We're going to let them wear it. And my thought on it is, well, when you get your ear stuck in the net,
right,
and
it has happened,
and it has happened. I've had players, ex-player, or older adults tell me that when I was a kid, I saw that happen to one of my teammates or whatever, and I'm thinking, okay, well, it's not my rule. And so when club did it 2 years ago, we knew that the IHSAA was going to be far behind.
Club volleyball is huge.
Or NFHS, because it's not necessarily IHSAA, it's NFHS.
Club is probably as big as or bigger than AAU basketball.
Really?
Oh, yeah, club is huge.
It's huge.
If girls don't play club volleyball, they probably won't do very well or not get a chance in high school volleyball.
Yeah.
Club is like queen.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wasn't aware of that. Now, to answer your question about pet peeves, where do I start?
Oh, no.
I think the untucked jerseys, the rolled up shorts. I you know what, I want kids to be able to have an identity, but you're still part of a team.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're trying too hard to stick out, to be that individual, I think that could be it's not good for the team. I don't think that's good for the team. Another pet peeve of mine would be, you're doing a tournament on a Saturday or whatever, and both teams have on white, and one coach says, well, I'm supposed to have on white, but the other team doesn't have another color, and you're like, well, I'm not changing colors. Like, okay, it's not about you, coach.
Right.
It's about the kids, and let them come out here and have a good time. And you want us to do a really good job, but it's going to be very difficult for us to do a good job if we're looking at 10 kids in the same color.
Yep.
So what would you do in that case? Would you just have them wear pennies, or?
The one time that it happened to me last, I think we just kind of held out until someone made the change.
Okay.
It was just like, come on.
So
you can't officiate a basketball game when both colors are the same.
You can't do a quality job.
No, because I'm going to say white foul.
Right.
Well, which white?
Right.
Exactly.
It slows the game down.
Slows
it takes
the game
away
down.
From it.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the point is you're trying to prove.
Right.
Yeah,
well, we were supposed to be home.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, but you're still be home.
Well,
we just need you to switch to black.
Sometimes you have coaches that you don't know behind the scenes, but they don't like each other because this one beat up on this one time by 45 points, and you don't know that until later in the game. You realize, oh, they ran the score up on them, so now he's got a grudge against that one.
Yeah.
My first brawl was about that in Indy, my third year, and it ended up being a brawl at the George Hill tournament, and later on I found out they had a brawl the previous summer. But no one told us that before the game, and then it happened, and it was bad, really bad.
Yeah, those are things that would be nice to know prior to a game.
Right.
Things to kind of be aware of, so that you could be heightened. Your attention could be heightened to it. Noticing little things. Like I had a kid the other day that he was on the floor, and he just smacked a kid's leg, and if it had been anything else, just I don't know, I didn't even understand why he was doing it. Frustration, I guess, but I just went out. I was like, I'm gonna call foul on him because that was just dumb.
Right.
And it could have led to other things, or it could have been a product of something that had just happened. Maybe he felt like he had been fouled, and so now he's retaliating. Well, I'm trying not to have a fight.
Right. De-escalate the situation.
Yeah, so I was like, well, I'm just gonna go ahead and call the foul. Well, then he stands up, and the two kids just stare at each other and get in each other's face. So I was like, okay, we're going to go with the double technical then. So I just turned around, called a double technical. Well, that was the one boy's second technical, so he was out. And come to find out, that was the other kid's fifth foul. So he was out. So both
you took care of both problems.
De-escalated the situation.
So took care of both of them at the same time. I was like, man, that couldn't have been any better.
That's good veteran officiating.
That's what we call those are what we call game interrupter players.
Yeah, and
we get rid of them quickly.
Well, and then the funny thing is, the one kid that made it his fifth foul, he's sitting on the bench and he's asking me. He goes, "Well, I was fouled," and I said, "I know. If you'd paid attention, I was calling the foul. If you hadn't gotten into the argument, you would be out here shooting your 1-and-1 right now." And he goes, oh. I said, but instead you got a technical and now you're on the bench. So.
And I think that's one thing we were talking about earlier. When you become an official and you become more aware of the rules, you start to realize, oh man, I was all caught up into my emotions as a player or as a coach, and I didn't think.
Right.
But when you know the rules from an officiating standpoint, now you can make better decisions on what you will and won't do.
Oh, I love what you just said there, because once you, as an official, if you can maintain an even keel balance, and it seems personal to this coach or this player, it's never personal.
Never.
Right.
It's never personal, but you're trying to control not only the 10 players on the court, you got the coaches, and you get the assistant coaches that are talking, and you have the benches and the fans. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
And I've learned, until you're as you gain more experience, you get better at those things. When you're young, you think you know it all as an official.
Well, and then the other thing is, when we're at a tournament and there are 8 courts going at the same time, and you've got 16 whistles, you've got, fans and coaches and parents and everything all around you, walking past you. You hear from, they may not even talking to your court, be yelling, that was a terrible call. And they might be talking to the court next to you, but you hear it and you're like, I didn't even,
It's so accurate.
And so there's so much going on. And then you've got coaches yelling timeout. Well, I'm sorry, I've got this noise going on over here.
Or they're yelling that famous play.
Yeah,
five out. You're like, timeout. I didn't call time. Right. Man, stop yelling that play.
Come up with a new name.
Come on now.
Don't make it so close to timeout,
Yes. Now, for our viewers, let me help you guys understand something. Everything we're talking about here, we don't want to scare you away. We do want you to consider becoming an official.
Become an official. It's awesome. It's amazing.
We will
it's fun.
teach you how to deal with all that stuff,
Yes.
like Marvin talked about. It takes a while to get it down.
Yes.
And yesterday we had, we're part of another program, Casey Adams. Casey.
Yes.
He was a guest on, and he does this full court 3-on-3 within his team focus program.
Yeah. Well,
and
3rd, 4th, 5th graders.
Yeah. So he wanted us to bring our trainees out there so they could get their feet wet. And, man, it was interesting because I had a kid out there. He's 15 years old. Him and his dad have come through RTS. He's 15. This kid is zooming up and down the court. Doesn't have a clue what he's doing, but he got better. I mean, that was his first time with a whistle in his mouth, first time with a shirt on his back, a striped shirt. But I would tell him this, and he'd pick up on it. I'd tell him that, he'd pick up on it. And the first thing he did when he was running out, I said, dude, don't backpedal. And he looks at me, he goes, huh? Don't backpedal. He looked at me like, why not? It's easier. I said, you have to turn around and look over your shoulder and run.
Yes.
So he did it.
Yes.
And then he came down court again, and he did it. And then when he got about 3/4 down, he turned around backpedal. I said, stop it. So he smiled, turned around and ran again. And then I was just talking to him, and he was asking questions. And I want our viewers to understand he's 15. You have to be 18 to get licensed, but he's 15, and he's catching on. Him and his dad are doing it together, and he's like, yeah, Crane, I want to learn this. So by the time I turn 17, 18, I can start earning money.
But he can actually start earning money now.
Yeah, he doesn't know
he
it.
Just has to
we're going to start earning. We're going to get him into money.
Because we'll have him doing, we'll level,
yeah. He's gonna
3rd,
get paid.
4th, 5th grade. I mean, you can still make.
You need those guys that are young and they're super athletic.
Yes.
Right.
And also giving a shout out to the veteran officials who've been around 30 years, who've mastered controlling a game.
Right.
Yeah, it's tough.
Everything.
Yep.
So you see them, you're like, oh, they're not athletic. They can't get up and down the court. It's not always about athleticism.
Right. It's not.
So much more to it.
Yes.
It is. It's about anticipating and not blowing your whistle.
Oh.
And the other official who was out there with him, he's an older gentleman. He kept anticipating, and he kept blowing his whistle too early. And I said, why are you blowing your whistle so early? Oh, yeah, I got to stop doing that, don't I? Yeah, I've told you 1,400 times, stop doing that.
And Crane, I got to give you a shout out for that. I think you and I were working together. I don't know the school. I can't remember. So many. Mm-hmm. But I think I anticipated a call. And you're like, hey, slow down. Take your time. Mm-hmm. Put your hand up. Think about it. Mm-hmm. And then make the call. I said, you know what? And it does work.
It does.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just take that extra second and just breathe and let the play develop. I know that's one of the things that he was really working with me on when I was getting into it as well. And so you just kind of let the play develop. And then, yeah, you got him. We'll go up with the foul on that. But
I love it when you do that and people say, that was a late call. I just look at it and go, I blew it, didn't I?
Yes.
Anyway, we got Green, 31.
It's still a foul, whether it was early or late,
It's still a foul.
It's still a foul.
All right, last thing we're going to cover, the need for officials. We talked about that. I don't want us to scare away our viewing audience into thinking they don't want to get into officiating because we're talking about the realness of it. But at the same time, the need for officials, we all know it's really, really high. And we want to. Did we ever invite you out to speak at an RTS class?
I have not.
Okay, we gotta get you out there.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah, that's one of the things we want to do, because we're gonna have to sign off here. But RTS recruiting, we want to just tell people about. Tanya, go ahead and tell us about everything that's available.
Yep. So we have volleyball training that's starting the first Sunday in August, as well as so that will be 4 weeks. 4 weeks long, starting in August. So you can register at www.reftrainingschool.com. We will also have basketball training, which will be in October, and that is a 5-week long program. And then from there, we also have our Hoosier 3-on-3 league that is coming up, and that will be September, 4 Fridays in September, starting the 8th. You can register for that at www.hoosier3on3.com.
And that's for kids.
That is for kids,
Right.
Boys and girls, grades 3 through 12th, third grade through 12th grade.
And just so people know, we're going to have divisions in every grade. So
that is our hope.
third graders won't be playing against 12th graders.
But they might be playing against fourth graders.
They may
so,
be. But that'll be divisional. So
yes.
just to let people know.
Yep.
Marvin, any final comments before we sign off?
Hey, I really enjoyed this. This is awesome. I think you should definitely continue, and I hope it reaches a lot of people because it's awesome. It's good information, and we need some officials. Come on out, help us out. You got great trainers over here. We'll all help out. We'll teach you positioning and how to make the calls and how to be consistent and what we just talked about.
Patient whistle.
But no, it was awesome. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you, Marvin. Appreciate it.
It's good to have you. All right. Till next time, we'll see you. Ref Time signing out. Thanks again for listening to Ref Time, powered by reftrainingschool.com and Hoosier3on3.com. Produced by Coraggio Media. Ref Time is recorded in WELT Studios in beautiful downtown Fort Wayne, Indiana.
To join RTS, visit reftrainingschool.com. Please like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Until next time.